George H.W. Bush went on TV holding a dramatic prop.
This is crack cocaine, seized a few days ago by drug enforcement agents in a park just across the street from the White House.
The role of that one baggie of crack in the war on drugs on the next Reveal.
Reveal Weekly, Saturday mornings at 10 on Radio St. George 100.3.
Hey, you know Bucci? I know Bucci from JL Auto Connections. Bucci just hooked up Radio Dixie with a sound system for our golf cart. Yeah, he did that. Custom audio installs and video and security for your vehicle. Yeah, he does that too. And after doing this for 34 years, Bucci knows that custom personal touch for your car audio at JL Auto Connections, 990 North, 1400 West in St. George.
Alexa, play Radio St. George. Yep, it's just that easy to do on your Amazon device. Alexa, play Radio St. George. You're welcome.
Email us at radiostgeorge@gmail.com.
This is KDXI St. George, Radio St. George at 100.3 FM. And we now present to you On the Arts, an hour of discussion and discovery about the arts in St. George and Southern Utah. And now your hosts for On the Arts, Michael and Christina Harding.
Good afternoon, St. George. This is Michael Harding.
And this is Christina Harding.
And we're here with On the Arts, that show that is dedicated to blowing the lid off of all of these little artistic secrets that we have here in Southern Utah.
So many, and we're back again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I have to say, I love the delight on the faces of all of our guests whenever we say that.
They're so happy to be here with us, yes.
I've dreamt of having a catchphrase. So we're actually very excited to have in our studio today two guests.
Yes.
We'll begin with Dr. Nancy Allred,
yes,
who we've had on the show before, but we had such a great time. We're having you back
She's
here.
back. Yes.
And we also,
back.
and of course, we do have things to plug, of course.
Oh,
we do.
yes.
And I love talking to you.
Oh, good.
We love having you here. And we also have Dr. Kawai Yu is going to be coming in later, also a former guest of our show.
Mm-hmm.
And one I will never forget, it was one of my favorite shows where I didn't think it was hard-hitting journalism or anything like that. I just happened to find the title of his doctoral dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking, I started reading it to him and said, I just want your comment. And it had to do with Brahms, I believe, or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the look on his face was wonderful. He just started to beam. He said, and I'll do my best impression of him. How did you get that?
My ways.
Yes.
Right.
Stalking is what we call it.
But anyways, to keep everybody informed as to what's going on, we do have a few things that we wanted to make sure you knew about.
Just a little bit of reminders of what's coming up this weekend for those who might be interested. We do have out at Kayenta a street painting festival that is April 27th and 10 to 6 and April 28th, 10 to 5. And so if you enjoy the weather, go up there to Kayenta and check it out. And it's beautiful, and there'll be a lot of performers out there and a great time for your family. And I'm sure there's going to be some food out there also. So we're planning on attending that tomorrow. So if you want to run into us, you'll run into us out there, and that would be a treat.
Now, a way you might recognize us, and I'm going to invite everybody to check out Facebook.
Okay.
We are broadcasting live on
We
Facebook.
are.
If you go to Radio St. George, that's radio space ST space George.
I'm posed here. Okay.
Absolutely posed. We
Okay.
are on camera.
Yes.
You can check out the live broadcast of this show. And also, this will be archived. So if you go to that webpage, that Facebook page, you will be able to check out any of the shows we've done over the past three
seasons now.
Wow.
And if they want to check out, too, this bright yellow bowling shirt I have on.
Which is how
On the Arts. Look at this.
Yep.
you'll recognize Christina tomorrow when we're at Kayenta because she is going to be wearing
I'll be
her
wearing
golden
a
On the
bright
Arts shirt.
Yes, and it's beautiful.
And you can check that out certainly on
We're
Facebook.
thinking about starting a bowling league too.
Absolutely.
For the On the Arts.
We'll call it On the Arts
Or radio.
Spot Us 20.
Well, we'll do Radio St. George Bowling. We're going to go ahead, start a bowling team, and why not?
I like that.
Yeah, I think we could do it. So
And we got the bowling shirts.
Yeah.
But we're also broadcasting live on YouTube. If you go in and check out On the Arts with Michael and Christina Harding, you can check that out archived as well. And we'll also share this on our Facebook page, On the Arts with Michael and Christina Harding on Facebook for your viewing pleasure.
Oh, yeah. All right. And so continuing on with Kayenta, they also have the Coyote Tales April 28th. They're bringing it back for a special performance.
Encore.
Because it was so popular. And that will be on Sunday, April 28th at 6:30 p.m. You can you're invited to join their pre-party. And then at 7:30, they have stories starting. And that's only for $20. So for $20, you get to join the party and then go into the beautiful space and listen to these wonderful stories. And that's Coyote Tales.
I've heard a lot about the Coyote Tales, actually, and they're very, very popular. When I first heard about them, I just thought, okay, great, people are going to stand up and tell stories.
Going, oh, that's what you thought of, didn't you?
Coyote Tales, yes. Not
that's
quite, but I'll go along.
Okay.
Now I am. But apparently a lot of people really enjoy not only hearing the stories,
and
but
poetry.
And poetry and writing and short literary exploits. But they've discovered something that we discovered on this show. People like to talk about themselves and tell their stories.
Yes.
And it's
people are wonderful.
It's an entertaining evening.
Yes. And if you do not like that sort of thing, you prefer music, we also have the St. George Chamber Singers are performing Saturday, April 27th, free at the Tabernacle.
There's so much going on there.
Yes, and they are we've had them on the show, and we support them and love what they do. And then also, I just found this today, and I know Nancy Allred, our guest, knows a little bit about this, but this is the Creative Age Arts and Healing Workshop, and that's Friday, May 24th, so it's a ways off, but you can register for this, and this looks wonderful. I just read up on this, and it says that it is examining the role that the arts play in promoting health and wellness for anyone seeking to live a creative and active life. And if you would like to register for that, it's only $50, and you can go to Arts Wash Co. That's Arts, ARTSWASH co.com, and you can register there. Only $50 for all these wonderful speakers they have lined up, and I thought that sounded wonderful to be going out here at Dixie State University.
Well, it's something that I'm really liking to hear recently, I'd say within the last 10 years particularly, are the use of arts in therapy.
Yes.
And in all kinds of situations, not only in, say, lockdown facilities with juveniles who need to get some focus and things of that sort, but there's also this wonderful video that it goes viral probably every 6 months of an older gentleman. And he's, not that that's the funny part, but come check out the funny old guy. No, the older gentleman, he's in an old age home and he's blind. And they start playing music for him from the 50s, I believe it is, and he just starts rocking out. And you see this person who really hasn't exhibited much personality all of a sudden coming alive and sparkling with the arts.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that arts and therapy go hand in hand. I know my father, who was an accomplished pianist, that's when he had Alzheimer's, and as soon as he was in his last final stage of that, music played a big important role in calming him down. So, yeah.
And I've actually heard rumor, I don't know anything about this, but that you can use wind instruments with asthmatics. I know that sounds incredibly intuitive, but it actually helps. I don't know if you've ever tried to play a flute. But I will tell you, I've never been so lightheaded in my life. And I imagine, I can only imagine an asthmatic using that for therapy's sake. But so many wonderful opportunities. We hope you'll check it out.
Yeah.
And that's artswashco.com.
Yes. Artswashco.com.
Well, a lot of doctors will encourage pianists as they get older and arthritis sets in that they keep
those fingers limber.
Going. So that's another facet of aging.
Aging? What is that?
Well, welcome back to the studio, Nancy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Yay.
Love being with you two.
Oh, it's great. You're one of the people that we've gotten to know quite well here in the studio.
Yeah, see you a lot.
Yeah.
But tell us, you do have something coming up that I want to make sure we get to, and that's a piano camp coming up in the near future?
Yeah. We have the Castle Rock it's actually the Castle Rock Music Camp that is sponsored by the Dixie State University Music Department. Yeah. It's been going on for many years. And it's grown to have 2 weeks of camp activities. So June 4th through 7th is the strings camp, and Dr. Yu will talk about that. And then the second week of June 11th through 14th, is the piano camp. So all the activities are dedicated solely to piano.
Oh.
So, yeah.
What kind of activities are they? When I imagine a piano camp, I just imagine a lot of people sitting around playing piano. What actually happens?
That's exciting.
Well, we actually have it split into 2 different camps that week. We have a piano junior camp for ages 8 to 11. We started that last year, and it was highly successful. And they have classes in a lot of theirs are activities, music theory activities, composer activities, little performing, and just interacting with our guests. We have several faculty, and so we do all that for the little kids, and it's just 9 a.m. till 11:30. That's kind of
that's not
Till
bad.
11:30 a.m. I hope.
yeah.
Not bad. That's
And
not
then
bad.
the regular camp is ages 12 to 18, and that goes all day, 9 to 5. And there are evening performances, and they have most of the classes are 50 minutes. They have piano technique, but we do it in a fun way, and just lots of activities. We have a meet the composers class, and the kids, they love that. And again, there's all these games and activities associated with each thing. Music theory, again, lots of games and activities, and we have ensemble where they do duets and trios and quartets, and we find fun music. And they love that. Let me see what else. We have master classes with some of our regular faculty, and then we have a guest artist that comes for Thursday and Friday of that week, and I'll talk about him in a minute. And just various. They get a practice hour, so we have little, not lectures, but presentations where we teach them more about how to practice, performance tips, just various things. We let them ask questions, and they have a ball. So that's kind of the schedule, if you will.
A lot of the young people I know, it's not about how to practice, it's how do you get them to practice.
Well, in the first year we did the piano camp several years ago, we didn't put a practice hour, a free hour in there. They had stuff all day long. But the one, and, we ask, just give a little review. And the one thing they said was, we want a practice hour because we want to do what we're learning. Isn't that nice? They
want to do it.
So we've incorporated that in, and they get to, and we have faculty, and we always have a few college students that kind of intern and help out. And so it's not totally supervised practicing, because we go in and out of the practice rooms and help them, and they love it. And with a camp, they interact with students, and some of these kids become lifelong friends. We have a whole lot of St. George or Southern Utah kids that come, but there's always a few from up north and a little
exciting.
bit from Nevada. Not a lot, but we're trying to expand.
Really?
So now that we have dorms that are available in the summer, we can expand and try to get kids from
that's
other
great.
areas.
How many would you say attend these camps?
Last year, the piano, we had about 55, and strings about 55. So we had more than 100 kids over the 2 weeks. And then there's evening performances, and their families can come, for those. And
You mentioned earlier something that really intrigues me, and that was duets and trios on piano. And I never really thought much about that. All that could do, or all that did, was remind me of, there was a series of Victor Borga.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't remember who else it was. It was not Liberace. I know that. I think I would have remembered that pairing.
Yeah.
But it was Victor Borga and Ashkenazi or somebody. I don't remember. Maybe even Andre Watts. I'm not sure. And they did this thing where one of them was playing and would, at any given time, would reach up and wipe the sweat from his brow, and he would slide over and the other would slide right in and pick it up. I don't know. Do you teach trick piano at this camp?
There's actually several pieces that do that. Like we have a piano ensemble class at Dixie for the college kids, and we just had a concert last week, and one of the pieces, the they like switch on the bench, and it's fun. The audience loves it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's
That's a
several
blast.
pieces that do that. There's a kind of a spoof on Chopsticks, and then Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. Somebody merged all that, and it's hilarious. And at one point, one performer pushes the other one off, and they come around and then try to. Anyway, so and audiences love that.
Piano, the
Ensemble-
athletic sport.
Yeah, and ensemble music is generally lighter and a lot of arranging of famous tunes and things, and so it's kind of an audience grabber.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and the kids love it, and so it's fun. It's a fun thing to do in a camp.
Is lunch provided for the children at the camp?
Yes,
Oh.
for the kids that go all day.
Uh-huh.
So that's part of their tuition, if you will.
Okay.
Not going to feed those little kids, just the older ones.
Yeah.
So, like the last 2 years, I've ordered Panda for one of the days.
Panda?
Panda Express, and boy, that's a hit. That
Oh,
orange
yeah.
chicken. Isn't that funny? Can we do this again, Dr. Allred? No, one day. 'cause
Oh.
It's usually the most expensive.
I was going to say, wow, that's great.
It is. Yeah, we do that. We'll do sandwiches one day, and what else do we do? Pizza one day, and there's something else that I can't remember.
Oh, sounds good
We
already.
order
Must
them
be dinner time.
the
Yeah.
week before, and they usually go to our cafe, the Red Rock.
Red
What do
Rock
they call
The,
it?
the
Trailblazer
Red Rock
Cafe.
Trailblazer.
But they're doing a lot of construction, so we'll see if it's finished.
Yeah, I think there's a chain coming in. I think Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A
Is coming
so
in?
the kids will usually like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say
we'll
anything edible the kids will like. That's our,
So, and we usually have snacks too.
Oh, that's
because
good.
that's a long day.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I remember up north at the Shakespeare Festival, there's a camp to train young actors in Shakespeare. And I remember this was quite a while ago, maybe 16, 17 years ago. And it's quite an expensive little camp if you do everything. And they have scholarships available and things of that sort to help you out. But I'm always amazed at the kids who come through, and they've said this straight out. You ask them, so why are you here? What do you want to learn? And they just say, well, I really like the baked potatoes
Yeah.
from the concession
Isn't that funny?
stand. And I think if your parents could hear you now.
Food. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, you mentioned earlier that you have a special guest
Yes.
coming in. And who is that?
It's Dr. Keenan Reeser. He is the piano professor and music history professor at Southern Virginia University. And he got his bachelor's at Utah State, studied with Gary Amano, then went to USC, got a master's in piano, and then stayed and got a PhD in musicology. So he is amazing. He has performed here several times in southern Utah. His wife's grandma, I believe, is it Noni Sorensen? Do you know her?
I'm not
Anyway,
sure. No.
Anyway, so they've got Southern Utah connections, and he's awesome. His performing is just out of this world. And he's done master classes here for our students, and he's awesome. So we, the last couple of years we've gotten guest artists, and we have our own faculty, which are just wonderful. So he'll be here for the Thursday and Friday of the camp. And so the rest of the faculty will get it going. And then we have master classes with him. And the students can also sign up to take a half-hour private lesson with him.
Wow.
Last year we had Josh Wright, and I think 17 of the kids signed up for private lessons with Josh and loved it. They can also sign up for to take from some of the other faculty. So like Brandon Lee, and Brandon's a big hit.
I haven't heard from
always.
Brandon in quite a while. How's he doing?
He's doing great, and he teaches for us every year, and he's awesome. So a lot of the kids like studying with him. So it's pretty fun.
Something I've always been curious about with piano lessons, I think if you were to poll, I would say probably everybody in St. George, 9 out of 10 would have taken piano lessons at some point
Yes.
in their life. It's a very common thing. But then you have the people who truly study piano and the people who really go on beyond playing hot cross buns or doing the skip through Malou and
wow.
things. What is it to study piano? Going through, you mentioned people having their doctorates and studying it. Is it just practicing a lot, or what do you do?
Well, just like with any degree, you have the whole gamut of classes, So if you get a music degree and you focus on piano, you'll take 2 years of music theory and ear training. You have conducting. Different. I had to have 2 or 3 semesters of conducting, and you take private piano with a professor one-on-one all the years you're doing that, and you have piano literature, 2 semesters, piano pedagogy, learn how to teach, counterpoint, orchestration. That was just the bachelor's. And then when you move on to and you have to do recitals, so solo recitals. I had to do a junior recital, a senior recital, which
I
are
can see the
major performances. And then you go on. So if you're serious, and that's always interesting if a student says, I really want to do this, and so if you're really serious, then you go on and get a master's, and it's just the classes are more elevated, just like with graduate classes, and you usually take 2 or 3 semesters of music history. So like you'll take a romantic period class and a impressionistic class, or Baroque, and then you'll have specialized piano classes. So again, piano literature and piano pedagogy, and then you have to do 1 or 2 master's recitals, and those are usually an hour of music, and it's pretty crazy.
That's intense.
Yeah, and then you go on and do a doctorate if you want to keep going.
Yeah.
Same thing. You take lots of music history courses and specialized piano lit or pedagogy, and lots of exams. You have entrance exams. You have qualifying exams. They keep trying to make sure that you need to be there. And then in the doctorate, I had to do 4 full recitals. The last one was a lecture recital. So you do research and prepare a half-hour lecture, and then you perform for a half hour.
Wow.
And then after you do all that, you have your final doctoral exams, and then you write your dissertation. I mean, it's massive.
Yes.
I think back to my first teacher, Mrs. McElveen, and I didn't do anything like that. I think I spent about 6 months on one piece, and she finally gave up with that one.
Yeah.
I just hit my
I
mic
think
with
you
my
just hit
earphone.
that was just. I hope our audience saw that.
Teaching younger children in the pre-college years is a whole different ballgame than what I've just described. Because I have a whole group of piano majors, and it
They're already
depends on what they want to do. A lot of them just want that bachelor's, and then they want to go off and teach or go be a collaborative pianist or whatever it is, or they want to go to grad school and do something else, But the younger kids are the whole you want to form their technique and their whole foundation, and it's totally different. You got to help them love music.
Right. Do you go into the schools and promote this workshop, or how
we
do
just
you get
did
out?
today?
Oh, fantastic!
Yep, sorry,
where did you go?
We went to where did we go today?
Is it
we
a
went
blur?
to Snow Canyon High School, and Kauai and we performed for them, and then talked about the camp and stuff, and then Mr. Moore had me work with some pianists.
Oh, how exciting.
So while the kids watched. And then Kauai went in the other room and did all the cellos. Then we went over to Desert Hills High School and we just did presentations and performed for them, and it was fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I would see that it would probably get recruitment. I mean, the students would want to be, be a part of this when they meet you and go out and be like, I want to join that.
Well, and one thing we want to do as Dixie State is to have the campus be open for the community, for the younger kids. I call them kids. Sorry.
Well, they're all kids, right?
So that they are comfortable in being here. I started a thing this year, the Allstein. Well, we've been doing an Allsteinway series for a couple of years, but I just this year started honors recitals for pre-college kids. And they just have to have a recommendation for their teacher. We had one last night. We had 25 students perform.
What?
Yeah. So,
That's
and we did one 3 weeks ago, and how many? 10, 11. So we doubled, and then we have another one on May 8th. So I was just kind of trying this out, and there's not a lot of performing spaces for teachers to bring their students, and
Right.
And we have a beautiful, as you know, Steinway piano.
Yes.
2 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
What
So
a great opportunity.
And we always talk about the students who are really anxious to come. Every teacher has a story about, this is putting you on the spot, has a story about a student who started out not really into it, but then you watch the excitement go. Have you seen any of that happen with the people who come for the camp?
oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you'll have students that are kind of timid and they're not sure, but you watch and you don't want to force students to be friends with each other, but you just watch them, and that's why lunch it's an hour, and they sit down and they start
relax, yeah.
You know, and there are some kids that are kind of loners the first day or so, and then but you see them start interacting, and then you see these wonderful students who notice somebody's alone and they'll go sit with them and yes, I just love these kids. And they get to know each other, and they've interacted in class, and my thing is falling off.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
And so it's wonderful. So these little activities, and they do. Mark Gubler is in charge of the schedule for the regular piano camp, and he does a great job. And he puts I don't remember if it's a half hour of activities towards the end of the day. So they kind of let their hair down and go outside.
And relax for a little bit.
In the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blow off some steam.
So that's as much a part of it and an important part as all of the musical things that we teach them.
Wonderful.
All the
Well,
relationships.
Nancy, we are out of time
out
for
of
our
time.
first
We're just gonna
segment.
Isn't
take
that
a quick
crazy?
commercial.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to some information, and then we'll be right back with On the Arts.
Howdy, folks. This is Dave Smith, host of Ozark Highlands Radio. This week, we'll be playing a raft of great old traditional songs performed by Jimbo, Mathis, and kinfolks. Historian Dr. Brooks Blevins profiles the curious story of Katie Heidi. And I'll be making my weekly trip down into the archives, where my buddy Mark Jones has found an old recording of banjo master Jimmy Connor this week on Ozark Highlands Radio.
Ozark Highlands Radio, Sunday nights at 10 on Radio St. George 100.3. And now this health tip from Stapley Pharmacy.
Sore throats stink. Often when a college student gets a sore throat, they reach for the over-the-counter, sugary, dreadful tasting cough drop in an often unsuccessful attempt to relieve that awful, scratchy feeling. All the while, you are missing your classes. Instead, how about a flavored lollipop that contains a numbing agent that blocks the pain signals to your brain? It's perfect for post-tonsillectomy or oral surgery and can even help with pain from cankers and herpes breakouts. Sore throat lollipops won't take the place of an antibiotic if you're sick, but will help with your pain. These lollipops must be prescribed by a physician, but your on-campus health center is familiar with this product. All you have to do is ask your provider for a prescription. If you have questions, talk to your favorite pharmacist, and remember, your pharmacist is your most accessible medical professional. Stapley Pharmacy has your prescription for success.
The city of St. George is one of the fastest growing communities in the United States and is world renowned for its outdoor activities. sgcity.org/event calendar is a complete list of all the events the city of St. George puts on. Pickleball, swimming, festivals, classes, camps, and lessons for old and young alike. A list of things so long we can't say them all here. Find out what's happening in St. George at sgcity.org/event calendar.
A reminder to all DSU students that the DSU Police Department has a secure lost and found drop box in their lobby, which is available 24/7 and video monitored. So if you have lost important items such as cash, wallets, cell phones, computers, or jewelry, then make sure to head down to the DSU Police Department. And to report a lost item, go to publicsafety.dixie.edu.
Six String Soldiers, a country music group made up of active duty soldiers, perform at the Electric Theater on May 7th at 7 p.m. with special guest Eric Dodge. Tickets are free, but they must be reserved. The event takes place Tuesday, May 7th at 7 p.m. in the Electric Theater in St. George, Utah.
No batteries included. It's Toy Talk with me, Dr. Tasha Toy. I invite friends and community members in for probative interviews about relationships, self-care, and so much more. Join me for Toy Talk.
Toy Talk, Wednesdays at 3:30 on Radio St. George 100.3 FM.
Enjoy the New York Philharmonic, Wednesdays from 11 to 1 on Radio St. George 100.3 FM.
Welcome back to Radio St. George 100.3 with On the Arts. And now your hosts, Michael and Christina Harding.
And we're back.
Hello, we're back.
Here with On the Arts, that show that is dedicated to blowing the lid off of all of those little artistic secrets that we have here in Southern Utah.
Yes.
Now, we had a really good time last segment talking to Dr. Nancy Allred.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've had a little change of guest right now.
We were sneaky. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very, very stealth.
Yep.
And we have in the studio a guest that we've had before on the show, and that's Dr. Kawai Yu. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure when we go back and we go through all of the interviews that we've had, and we find people that we've just had a great time with, and we're able to get them back here in the studio.
Yep. Well, we just run them down and say, hey, we want you back on the show. Please be on our show.
Oh, thank you.
And most people, it only takes 4 or 5 times before they tell us to go away, or they say yes.
Or they just say yes to get us off their... Yeah.
Right. But anyways, welcome back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we were talking actually to Dr. Allred about some camps that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you're not known for the piano. You're known for a stringed instrument called...
Cello.
We needed a drum roll there.
I know this. We got to get some sound effects in here.
I've always wanted to play the cello.
Oh,
always.
You should.
Oh, I should. See? I should.
There's never too late.
You're right. It is never too late.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would love to play the cello. It's always been a dream of mine. So.
Well, and actually, we walk by your office actually quite often, and we'll hear you teaching a lesson in there or something. And
it's beautiful. Yes.
And Christina, you brighten up every time you hear it.
I do. I love the cello. Mm-hmm.
That's it. So, Kawai, what's going on with this camp? What is it, and tell us about it.
Yeah, so Castle Rock Music Camp, as Nancy probably already, Dr. already talked to you about the piano camp. So we have the string camp, June 4 to 7. So Tuesday to Friday, 4 days.
Okay.
And we focus, so it's for students from 12 years old all the way to 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
And in the camp, they will have experiences in orchestra playing. So there were 2 camp orchestras, string orchestra. So they play wonderful repertoire. One orchestra is led by Dr. Paul Abeck, our colleague at Dixie State,
great.
and the other orchestra is led by Mrs. Kirsten Canland, wonderful director. Besides orchestra that a lot of kids have been already doing in school, which they will definitely enjoy doing it, continue doing it in the summer, they will also be playing in small chamber groups.
Mm-hmm.
So string quartets, trios, quintets, and so to learn as in a small groups setting, which not all school kids have that opportunity as you know as early as until they go to college, and then also solo playing that they will get to work on in technique class, in master classes, and then also quite a bit of different lectures. I think Dr. R probably talked about the piano camp with the different classes as well. We have, for example, a class is about how to practice efficiently.
We talked about that.
We talked about that.
And things like violin maintenance, or music theory related subjects, and or stage fright, or how to get ready for performance and things like that. But one thing that I definitely would like to spread about about going to music camp is the making new friends and connect with old friends also, of course, because it's very important, as artists, as musicians, or as just anybody, in a summer camp, really have a great time, and play together. I have actually personally benefits from going to music camp as a kid. I have some good friends, longtime friends that I met 20 years ago. I still in touch with them. It's funny because actually I was in a conference presenting, and I met someone who actually I met, like, we went to music camp together in 2003, and like everybody, when we were still students back then, like, college students, and then now we are professors and so it's a great 4 days of experience, and particularly when young kids stay in a regular semesters, they're busy with like classes, different homework on, of course, in addition to like family events and sport events and other things. They could actually in 4 days they could focus, play music and enjoy it fully and with friends. And wonderful faculty members.
Ah, yes.
I consider myself one of them. So the string camp, there are 8 string instructors. So I already mentioned Dr. Paul Abag, myself, and Dr. Robert Matheson on the double bass.
Robbie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Robbie.
Yeah, we know him.
And Linda DeLuca, who teaches viola and violin also. And then we have Kirsten Cannon, who from the high school perspective, teaching from Desert Hills High School Orchestra, and as well as Kylie Koloji, who is the Dixie Middle School director, who is a fantastic violinist as well, to be on the faculty. And then we have 2 more from outside St. George, Dr. Marcel Bowman, and as well as Monica Bowman, his wife, one violinist and cellist, and they coming from Provo area. And on top of that, we have a guest artist, Misha Wolshenker. Great concert violinist, really fabulous concert chamber musicians, as well as orchestral musician, and great teacher. So we have student campers, participants will get to work with all these wonderful instructors every day.
What a great thing to put your children into. Yeah. What a wonderful thing you're doing for this community.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and the great thing is so valuable and is also affordable, and so and they could already sign up online now for that 4 days experience. And
where did they go to sign up for this?
Yes. So it's music.dixie.edu.
Oh, that makes sense.
/ Castle Rock, one word.
Castle Rock, one
Yes.
word. All right.
Gotcha.
So-
/ Castle Rock.
/ Castle Rock.
Right.
That's right.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I've been really looking forward to having you in the studio to talk to you about a kind of practice. And
what?
I was reading an article. I do read occasionally.
He's reading. Oh.
And it was about a young man who was auditioning for Juilliard.
Oh,
and
okay.
he was talking about what his private teacher was putting him through to prepare him for that, and also larger performances. And of course, we talked a little bit to Dr. Allred about this as well. Most people think of practicing, you play it through, you work a little bit and get your technique and try to make it listenable, I guess would be the word. But he was describing that his private teacher would have him go and run around the block 3 times. And in New York, blocks are big.
Wow.
Very big. And so he'd come back in and his fingers would be sweating and his heart would be going. And she would make him play the piece then and say, okay, now you know how to do it when you're anxious. And then she would also, in order to get her students to really understand the music, they would have to play it 20 times slower than it actually went. So they would have to actually experience each note, experience each bit of rhythm, and learn the piece that way. Have you ever worked that way?
Oh, slow practice is really important for musician, definitely. I'm sure for other artists or for it's if you want to play really accurately and be able to be expressive also, it's you got to look into the details. And sometimes if you just keep playing things fast, you don't. It's so easy to just run through, because it's very common for like students that I work with, like they just run through the piece. Oh, I played through the piece 5 times today. Yay!
I practiced.
Oh, okay, I
get a
practiced. Sometimes they get a sticker that.
Yes.
For younger students, it's slightly different sometimes for all beginners. But if you are going to more advanced level or one deeper level, and you want to fix things, I always work with kids. Well, look at small chunks, like small parts of the piece. Don't just always start from the first note, play all the way to the end. Because by the when you go to the middle, it's like there's some wrong. Oh, let's keep going, and then come back to it, and then you forget about it.
Right.
Or you we're not running out of time. Dinner time. Don't have enough time to practice. But so it's important to organize the practice. What are you going to focus on, and take tackle them, maybe I will work on this ending. Oh, this is the most difficult part. I mark it, when I learn it in the piece, and I work on just that. And sometimes I would even ask students to just focus on one thing or two things. Like, I'll work on intonation today on this particular repertoire. And then I would just work on, right hand technique, how to use the bow for that one, and things like that. I find it, it's important to think about the quality as opposed to just quantity of practice. In fact, talking about that, you talk about practice, frequency is important. It's something that people feel like, oh yeah, how they keep asking me how many hours you practice. There's a common questions. But instead of thinking about, oh yeah, I practice 10 hours today and then I don't practice another 2 weeks, I think you might actually benefit more if you practice like 1 hour today, but every day, or maybe you can get one day off, like Sunday, or a shorter time that day. But consistency is something that practice. That's something we need, and slow practice is one of the ways that you can explore being consistent. I play that 10 times, but be able to, in that slow speed, I could tackle it, and now I could go to a little faster speed with the metronome. Turn it on, right? Click, click, click. And now kids don't have excuse because you can have metronome app on the phone.
I couldn't find a metronome.
Yeah, and they're free as well.
And they're free. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's some of my tips of how to practice, and yeah.
Well, I remember one of the most poignant lessons I ever had in really knowing a piece of music was from a teacher I had named Milton Kidd. Kidd. And he taught me piano. I mentioned a few of my piano teachers. They were all frustrated with me and passed me to other teachers. But I remember, yes, I was an arrogant little kid. And I'm still, I don't think I ever grew out of that. Man. But I remember I learned this piece and I was going to show him I could learn this piece. And I got to the point where I could play it through, and I could play it faster than the tempo marked. I was that good. And, I could do it flawlessly. And I went in ready to impress my teacher, and I sat down and I played it through, and he said, okay, do it again. So I did it again. And then he was like, so you've learned that pretty well. I said, yeah, I know that piece pretty much backwards and forwards. And he said, well, play it backwards. I said, well, okay, I know it forwards. And then he was like, I've got an easier thing for you. Just play the right hand. And so I said, okay, I can do that. And I sat down and I took my left hand off the keyboard and I kept trying to do it and I couldn't. And then he said, now play the left hand.
Ouch.
And so I put it up there and I couldn't play it. And then he said, now play them together. And then I put my hands together and I played the whole piece and was really good for that moment. And he said, now how well do you think you really know that piece? And it occurred to me, and I will never forget that moment where it occurred to me, I didn't know it at all. I had some muscle memory, and I knew, okay, well, this key gets hit after this key, but I didn't really know the music. I didn't understand how it all worked together.
Yeah. Breaking it down, it's really like that's essentially what it is. It's like just work on the right hand or just work on the left hand, and that's applied to other instruments too, sometimes I ask students, like cello, string instruments, like, oh, just work on the open string or the string crossing from one string to another string, how much bow you use, how the speed adjusting. Sometimes, just play open string without the left hand pressing down the strings and work on that individually. And then sometimes do the other way around too, just press the left hand and without the bow. And then, of course, that applies to other instruments, including voice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you say the rhythm, or just speak the way you're gonna sing that song,
right?
Before you're adding the voice, actually singing voice to it.
It doesn't sound so overwhelming as doing the whole entire piece for a practice.
Right.
Breaking it down sounds more doable.
Exactly, exactly. That's also efficient way of looking into it. Because the parts that you sounded pretty good already. Maybe you don't need to keep repeating it all the time.
Yeah.
Although there will be time when you need to run through it. Of course, you have dress rehearsal. You gotta the concert is tomorrow. You're gonna run through it to see if you
hopefully
see if you can remember it.
Oh no.
But you have to tackle the parts that definitely need to break it down or the small pieces, small chunks, or just a portion of the technique that you want to focus on.
Well, I'm going to do an informal poll out there, and if you want, you can certainly comment on our Facebook page on the arts. But I wonder if anybody else has done this. When I was practicing as a kid, quite often I would time the piece and say the piece was going to take 2 minutes and 20 seconds to perform. And I knew my parents wanted me to practice for an hour. I would divide up that 60 minutes and say, if I just play this through 22 times, I will have filled the hour.
Yes.
Have you ever done that?
I did, yes.
All these little techniques we use.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The secret.
I think I have actually done. I have thought of that. Well, yeah, and then you have one more piece, then you can fill even more hours.
Yeah,
right.
But of course, it's good to structure it. Talking about writing it down or thinking about this kind of way of thinking it, I do. One thing that I ask a lot of my students to do is to write a practice journal. So they basically have to write a log. Like today, how much time you practice, what pieces do you work on, what are the things that you struggle, technically and musically, and what you improved from last time. It's kind of like a documentary for yourself. Like, after you practice and like next week you look back, oh, what did I improve? Have I,
or what have I not?
Exactly. And so there are ways like that we could think about what are we going to focus, and it's important for students to think about.
Well, as a teacher, do you have a set curriculum that you put your private students through, or is it individual to the student? Like, do you take them from this composer to this composer to this composer, or do you switch it up?
There actually both. To your answer is, I do have to tailor to different range of different level of students, because more beginners, then there are certain things that they work on more, and some more advanced students are longer lessons anyway, so they work on things that are differently. For instance, but there are several elements that I definitely would love to have that in my cello lesson for students. We often do scales and arpeggios, very basic technical routine, and then the other elements that we definitely do is some technical studies. Like there's some like etude that we call, really work on the particular technique, like vibrato exercises or shifting from one position to another hand positions, and the bowing technique, working on different bowing articulations and things like that. And then the main repertoire. If you think of that way, I kind of fun. Sometimes kids like, why do I have to do this? Some teachers have different opinions about that. But I always tell them, you don't go to a restaurant and just keep eating the dessert right away.
Well, sometimes,
like I do now, right?
You're right.
There's some good, healthy food for you. Dessert could be healthy too, but you have salad, and then you have the main course, which is the big pieces. But you have some things that are really good for you, scales and etude. First of all, it helps you, to prepare you with the technique that you need. Secondly, it warms you up as well when you have work on those scales, and to start with, when you can't just start and play Flight of the Bumblebees,
Right.
So you want to get yourself ready for it, and it's interesting, and when you go to a basketball game, you always like, oh yeah, I watched the game, right? But when you look into the professional NBA players or just even school team, they practice how to shoot, practice how to just running around. Those are kind of the elements that we're talking about, like scales in musical terms, or etude, or studies. As far as the repertoire go, definitely I make sure that students have a concerting repertoire as well. So concerting in a sense could be there's some time periods. So you could have some Baroque pieces, Bach, Vivaldi, and you have some more classical era music, like Beethoven, or in the Romantic period, and then more contemporary music as well. It depends on the student's level. And there are some certain method books that arrange those pieces in a certain difficulty level, order. for especially for less advanced students. So I use some of those. There could be like Suzuki method or or different kind of method books that they follow. And so as a teacher, and that's why I love the job being a teacher, or love the the profession being a teacher, is I you have to be flexible.
Yeah.
And you try to help to see what students particular need. Because there are students who come in, with, he or she is very, very talented, but don't have the discipline yet, don't have the technical foundation yet. So I have to focus more on that side. Whereas there are students who come in, they learn technically, really, really, flourish. They can play very fast and very accurately and stuff, but they're not very musical yet. They play almost so, mechanically. So you will have to inspire them and sing the phrases with them, ask them to listen to different kind of music, and talk more about phrasing, or about, how you're going to shape the music better. So it's quite interesting when you go into a lesson and sometimes I feel like I'm prepared for this lesson, but there's always surprise.
Well, you sound so positive as you talk about this, and I can imagine if any mom's listening or a dad out there that wants their children to take these workshops. I know what would be important for me as a mom is that my child is going to go into this 2-week workshop and have a positive experience with instruments, and it sounds like that's what this is. This is what it's going to be. Yeah, absolutely. So. It's for the 4 days camp. They of course the lesson plan that I kind of talk about is more focused on like one-on-one lesson. In the music camp, it will be more like a class setting. But a lot of those, you're absolutely right. A lot of those will be applying to that, focusing on helping the students of different musical background, coming from different. That's great. Yeah, that's what matters. I know, because a lot of parents would be, if they had a shy child that was scared to go, I would want to know that the instructors were going to be positive and uplifting for my child
absolutely.
through the whole event.
In fact, when the first day when they go to the music camp, there is a little kind of, they play for us first, and
Do they play for everybody or just
it's
you,
just the instructors.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll divide them into different small groups, like for the chamber music part of that I mentioned. So like quartet, trio, those they will divide into groups that of their with others participants that are similar in
the level.
level.
Oh, that's
age.
great. Oh, good.
And there are 2 camp orchestra as well. So there's one more advanced orchestra, that one is junior orchestra, or so the so students coming, they don't have to worry like, oh yeah, I can't play the piece, or if it's too easy. It's always possible,
Yeah.
But I, if that's the case, I always challenge them. Like, hey, if you think this is too easy, play it even better. Play it more in depth. Do more research. Show me more. Be a leader of the group. And then if it's like too difficult, then I encourage them. Well, try your best and see how much you can tackle.
Great.
If not 100%, can you tackle 70%? The first 2 days, and then push. Maybe you can go over the limit a little bit in a concert,
Well, Kauai, unfortunately, as is always the case, we are out of time.
But first, we have to give you get the honor of receiving an On the Arts 100.3 Radio St. George Post-it for our swag.
Oh, yes. Fantastic.
Only
Thank
the
you.
best for you.
And if you don't like our swag, you'll love our swagger. That's what we say.
Wonderful.
Only a special Post-it for you. There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kauai, thank you so much for being a guest with us again here on the show.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully in season 4 we can have you and Dr.
We will
Allred
definitely
back.
have you back. Yes.
And
Thanks, Paul.
thank you for sharing your talents and your gifts with the Castle Rock Camp. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And again, check it out at music.dixie.edu/Castle Rock. All one word.
Nice,
Yes.
Michael.
Perfect,
Impressive.
Now, I want to say thank you to all of our
thank
listeners
you.
over season 3.
Yeah.
And let you
Have
know
a great summer.
Have a great summer, and we'll see you in the
We'll
fall.
see you in August. Bye-bye,
And
everyone.
until then, keep your focus on the arts.
You've been listening to On the Arts with Michael and Christina Harding. Search Facebook, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify for Radio St. George to view video and podcasts of this show, or go to radiostgeorge.com. Join us Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 for On the Arts on Radio St. George 100.3.